Hi everyone, it's been a while since I've been online. I have actually just come down to my local cemetery and it's a really hot day here, so I'm actually, you'll see, there's a few interesting plots around me. And look, I know it might sound a bit morbid, but I actually quite thoroughly enjoy walking through cemeteries. And this one I'm actually sitting under a tree because it's quite hot at the moment. But it makes me really think about time and how we seem to not really take enough account in time. So as I'm walking through cemeteries, I always have a look at what's on the different headstones and what they're saying. And I find it fascinating that I've come across some monster-sized cemeteries, or not cemeteries, but whatever the hell you call these things here behind me. I've seen some monster ones that are so tall. And what got me is when I started reading what they were about, they were talking about people after they were dead. And they were saying how they feel and they're beloved. You see the word beloved a lot when you come into a cemetery, and loved by and cherished by and, and all these other lovely, wonderful things. And sometimes you'll have quite a few family members in one plot. Sometimes it's just individual. Sometimes it just looks like a freaking house, depending on whether you're doing the ethnic ones or not. And I've walked through all the different sections here in the cemetery, and I will say this is my local cemetery. It's probably the worst kept cemetery I've ever walked into. Even my country town ones I've been into are better than this. But what I find interesting in this cemetery, apart from the fact the maintenance is terrible, is I'm thinking about the things that we are putting on these plots that stay here for hundreds of years. I've seen some from the early 1800s today, and the question is, are you saying any of these things to the person while they are alive? I think that's the biggest question you got to ask yourself. If you are saying that they're beloved and you love them and you care about them and you cherish them, did you ever actually say that to them while they were on the plane, they were on the earth in this vessel that we're in for this lifetime? So I really want you to contemplate what I'm talking about here. Because, I do love walking through cemeteries and having a good read because there's so many different religions here. But are you saying what you need to say now? Not when they're dead, not on one of these stones here, rest in heaven and all the rest of the stuff and cherish and love. Are you saying what you need to say right now, today, to the person that you do love and you do cherish and you do care about, and all the lovely things that are written here? Cemeteries are fascinating because for some reason all of the different denominations and all the different religions are actually allowed to be together. And yes, they have their different sections, but they're technically all on the same piece of land and they're sharing it together. So I think it's probably one of the other reasons that I thoroughly enjoy coming to a cemetery. I did actually see a plot before that was cracked open, and I remember I used to come to the cemetery with my brother when he was alive, and we would go through the cemeteries, and whenever we saw a cracked top, we'd be like, oh, and I'd freak him out and be like, oh my God, there's a person under here. But of course, unbeknownst to us, the person was like, 10 foot down or 6 foot down. And my brother's passed away. It's been, God, we must be coming up for 15 years now. I think it's coming up shortly in May. I don't know. I'm not a person, and this is something for those of you that do know me, I'm not a person that will actually dwell on the death of someone. I prefer to, and not that granted, saying that, I did spend many, many years not talking to my brother for various reasons, but my brother's been dead nearly 15 years, and I know my mum will be watching this, and he is in a beautiful part at a different cemetery, and it's a beautiful garden, and his ashes were sprinkled, which is completely against the religions of my family, because Arabic people don't do that, and the British, well, Church of England maybe, but that was what he wanted, and we respected, as difficult as it was for my mum, and I love her dearly. My parents respected his wishes of cremation because of our beliefs, me and my brother's beliefs about reincarnation and that this is a vessel. But 15 years ago, we both weren't able to express and didn't have the tools to be able to express love properly in a healthy way. We weren't able to express anger, frustration. Well, everything, actually, our frustration always came out in anger, let's be honest. I mean, every time my brother and I were in the same room, we tried to freaking kill each other. We were very, very similar. We're like twins separated at birth. I'm just going to switch hands because my arm's getting tired. But what I'm trying to tell you guys is, you know, he's not here. And I can't have that conversation. I can have a conversation with him in the spirit way, but I can't physically come, you know, talk to him and say, you know, I do care about you and I do love you. I'm just not the best at, you know, expressing that, but I want you to know that. Instead, I more said things like, fuck off, go to hell. You know, I don't want to be near you. And then I tortured my mum for many, 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 many years while my brother was trying to get in contact with me. And I said, you know, no, he can't, because I did not know how to communicate love. Now, I spent a whole day in a workshop yesterday. So for those of you joining me, I am in the local cemetery here. And I'm talking about expressing how you feel to people. And it doesn't have to be a lover. It doesn't have to necessarily just be a family member. But it's someone that, you know, you feel deeply about, that you care about as a person that has touched your life. Even if that person has touched your life for a moment, take the time to say thank you and show gratitude. Yesterday, the person that I worked with, Alice Hammerley, oh my God, and I hope I pronounced your surname correctly, you really touched me in a way that was needed. And I understand what you're saying about expressing love. It's something I've always struggled with. Communicating love and affection in my heart space, I've always held it very close to me. And a lot of that will happen with us depending on how you were brought up. And look, my parents were children having children. My parents were 16 and 17 years old when they had me and my brother. So they were children that, and if you met their parents, oh my holy moly, their parents had zero idea on how to express love. My dad's mum, the way she expressed love, it didn't exist. I sometimes call her Satan's child. You know, she was awful. If she didn't like what you said, she would throw something across the room at you, and whether that's a chair, a plate, a knife, it didn't matter. Okay, so my dad and his brother grew up not knowing what love was. In fact, then I'm just going to give you some family history that I only found out about a few years ago, which is, I think, why I'm saying all of this stuff now. My dad, up until, you know, maybe 5 or so years ago, did not know that his father, who, as far as we were told, passed away on a motorcycle accident, when just after he was born, that was not the true story. His father actually suicided. And he suicided holding the note that his wife had sent to him while he was in the war. And it said, I'm taking your children, you will never see them again. And he got that letter, they released him, he went straight back to London to go and look for them, and he couldn't find them. And so he killed himself holding that. Because the idea of not seeing his sons broke his heart, okay? So that's on my, wow, now I'm getting emotional. So my father has grown up not knowing his family, and he doesn't know how to love at all. His love is called sarcasm, which ones that know, some of you that know me, you'll understand where I get my sarcasm from. My mother, who I love dearly, and I've briefly spoken about her mum before. You know, she's Arabic, in an arranged marriage. Yes, they happen, and they happen here, even with my family members in Australia, in Melbourne. And her mum didn't want her. In fact, she never wanted children. And back in the day, she used to, whenever she'd fall pregnant, she used to pick up the hay mattresses and turn them over to miscarry. And my mum was coming to this plane whether she liked it or not. And so, you know, my nana never said to her daughter that I love you. She was, I didn't want you. Okay, so I had two parents who had no life lessons of love. And they wanted it so badly that it's always been a struggle trying to work out how to do it, because then you force it. When you haven't been taught how to do this, you will force love. You will force something that you desperately want until you push it away, which is what happened with me and my brother. You know, he was a bit of a nut job, don't get me wrong, but he was so messed up because he was so sensitive. He was even more sensitive than I am, that he could not express how he felt. And he did turn to drugs. In fact, both of us turned to drugs for quite a while because it could shut up what was happening in our head. Now, you know, I don't have any of my grandparents living here, and I talked to a friend about that on the weekends. But I, at least out of the two of us that were talking, I got to experience a couple of years of some of them. And he never really got to experience any of them. And so it's up to his parents to teach him. Now, if you're a parent out there, teach yourself first. Teach yourself love space and how to express love. And I know for a lot of guys out there it's really difficult, and I'm quite masculine myself, so I really struggle expressing love. My language of love is time. So, and I had to work that out. So it's not necessarily words, it's not touch, even though touch comes pretty high up on my list. But out of the 5 love languages, and do Google 5 love languages, and you'll see, if you don't know what they are, and you'll see the 5. Now, I worked out mine is time. So if I'm investing my time to spend with you, and that includes what I'm doing right now, and I'm sharing, you know, some pretty full-on shit that's happened in my family about love and death. You know, we've got a lot of suicides in my family and a lot of very freakish deaths, by the way. You know, part of that, you know, I'm doing that because my love language is time, and I want to invest my time to open up, and this is me expressing my love and my affection to those of you that are listening. So my message here is, do not wait until this happens, okay, guys? You know, to express whether somebody is loved or cherished. Find your love language and make sure that they understand what your love language is too, okay? And tell them, everybody, my love language is time. So if I'm spending time with you, it's showing that I care. Work it out. Tell the people around you what your love language is, whether it's words or affirmations or gifts or whatever it happens to be. And make sure that you're telling people that you love them while they're here and not when they're here. Okay? Don't leave it till it's too late, like I have in many cases. In the last few weeks, I've wanted to have a conversation with my brother so bad, you know, sober. Because the only time we really got along was when we were stoned off our heads, and all we do is laugh our asses off and keep my mum awake at night. So, you know, I've really wanted to talk to him, and I do in my own way, but he's not here for me to have these conversations that I'd love to have with him. It's too late. He's gone. He's passed over. You know, when I'm talking about in the physical plane, okay, I'll talk to him in the spiritual plane. So find out, you know, your language of love. Try to open up your heart space like I'm trying to do in a productive way, and I generally do it in a non-productive way. And go and tell whoever it is in whatever way it is, or show in whatever way it is that's your love language. Show the person or people around you that you care right now. Sorry it's been so long since I've been on here. You're going to see a lot more of me very soon. You know, just sending lots of love to everybody, and see you later. Bye.